So I read around 50 books in 2024. My goal was 52. I hit more or less than that. I kind of just wanted to go through and tier rank everything that I read. This is mostly going to be litfic, fantasy, sci-fi, a couple classics, a couple thrillers in there. So yeah, let's look at the tiers. Top tier here is Amnesia. These are books that I hope one day I completely forget about so that I can go in and reread them for the very first time. Top tier. So next tier is No Notes. These are books that I can't think of what I would have changed about it to make it better. I have no notes. Okay. Third tier, Don't Be Ridiculous, Andrea. Everyone wants to live like this. This is probably going to be my biggest category. I know there are problems, and I feel the problems for sure, but I still kind of like them. Mid, ... When you know, you know. Bottom tier, if you don't have anything nice to say. I don't have anything nice to say about these books. I've racked my brain and my heart and my soul, and I don't have anything positive to add. I just tacked on my DNFs. Let's get started. The first book that I read this year was Eragon. It was actually Eragon and Eldest I read back to back. And these were rereads for me. I did read these when I was probably 10 years old. Definitely different reading them as an adult. Although I do think the author was like 16 when he wrote these as well. 16 or 19 or something like that. I'm going to put both of these in Don't Be Ridiculous, Andrea, because I do like these books, but they're kind of boring, and I would be hard pressed to try to recommend these to other people. So the next book is My Husband. This was a pretty short book. I think it's a novella about a woman who is obsessed with her husband, and there's like a plot twist at the end. I'm going to have to put this in if you don't have anything nice to say, because I could not care less about this book. Nothing happens the entire time. And then when you get to the plot twist, it's not even that it sours the rest of the book, because the rest of the book is sour. It's like it makes it even more rancid. Unfortunately, I have nothing nice to say. Next is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I was so excited to read this book. And unfortunately, it's gonna go in the mid zone. It was fine. It was a book. Sometimes it's kind of hard reading classics because they're classics. There's going to be so many other works that are derivative from it that I've probably engaged with before. So then by the time I get around to the original, it just doesn't do it, or it is fulfilling everything that I would expect it to. It might have been more countercultural or fresh or new or unprecedented. So yeah, I don't know. By the time I get around to it, it's like, okay, that was definitely a book. Let's talk about the locked tomb. All three: Amnesia, Gideon the Ninth, Amnesia, Harrow the Ninth, Amnesia, Nona the Ninth, Amnesia. This is a series about necromancers in space. It's a sci-fi fantasy, and I recommend it to everybody. I think that everybody would like it. I'm obsessed with the characters, obsessed with the way that Tamsyn does storytelling. I'm obsessed with the world building. I'm obsessed with the really interesting dynamics between all of the characters and the kind of like social politics. If you are at all interested in sci-fi or fantasy, definitely check these out. Lolita. Don't be ridiculous, Andrea. Everybody wants this. I know that not everybody wants to live like me. I liked it. It took me a long time to get through. I'm actually thinking I want to rank these as well by within their own rows by quality. The most left will be the highest. Secret History, mid. Better than the Bell Jar though. Secret History it's like a dark academia story about a group of rich kids aside from our main character that our main character befriends. They're all in this like Greek class together. One of the characters dies, and so, you know, that's kind of revealed at the beginning, and you're kind of following along to figure out how this turns out this way. I liked this book. There were a couple character decisions that definitely like knocked it down for me, and I feel like this could definitely just be me. Like, maybe I'm just dumb. People are all, oh, unreliable narrator this and unreliable narrator that, but I don't see it. I don't even feel like it necessarily adds to the story for me to envision all these situations in which he was being unreliable. Frankenstein. Don't be ridiculous, Andrea. I totally get if you don't like Frankenstein. But I think it's a fun time. I feel like I like Frankenstein more than Eragon, but I don't like. I'm gonna split up the twins here. I don't have anything nice to say about Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Let's talk about The Girl on the Train. This is a thriller about a girl on a train. It's about like this woman who likes to ride the train and stare at the old house that she used to live in with her husband before he divorced her. And their neighbor she becomes really, really intrigued with. It's just this younger couple. The young woman in the couple goes missing. And so she's kind of trying to help unravel this mystery of where this woman went. Mid. This has like a twist at the end, and I did know the twist going into it, and I don't know if that like ruined my experience. Personally, I don't feel like a twist should like ruin a first read experience if it's a good book, which is why I'm putting it in mid. Patricia Wants to Cuddle. I don't have anything nice to say. I was so excited to read this book because the premise sounds really good. It's about a reality TV show, The Bachelor. So there's like 4 or 5 women that are all dating this guy on this reality TV show, and they are going to this like small town island or whatever where there's like a lady Bigfoot, and there's people in the town that are obsessed with this lady Bigfoot. And the lady Bigfoot starts like picking off the cast and the crew one by one, which is not my thing. It was like a slasher, and it was really short. I didn't feel connected to any of the characters. I feel like there was like supposed to be a message, but it didn't work for me. I feel like that sounds nice. I hated this book. I did not enjoy a single second of it. Great Gatsby. Don't Be Ridiculous, Andrea. This is gonna go on the top end of Don't Be Ridiculous. I really like The Great Gatsby, but I totally get if you don't like it. I find the characters really intriguing. The actual settings the characters spend time in, I think, are really interesting. A Court of Thorns and Roses. You and your sister are gonna go into mid. I have differing opinions on each book though. A Court of Mist and Fury goes into mid. Slightly worse than ACOTAR. I hated A Court of Wings and Ruin. I don't have anything nice to say about this book. I think that like SJM gets a little too cozy near the end of the series. Okay, if you don't know this series, hold on. Let me dial back. This is ACOTAR. You've probably heard of it. This series is about our main character, Feyre. It starts out as Beauty and the Beast or whatever, except Feyre can't read. So she gets like kidnapped to break this curse, and the guy who ends up kidnapping her to break the curse isn't actually the main love interest of the series. It's like a red herring, I think. I do like Rhysand more than I like Tamlin, but do I like Rhysand? No. I didn't like the beginning bit in Echo War. I feel like Feyre is acting like really strange and out of character. I don't agree with the actions that she's taking, and I feel like the book and the author 100% agree with the actions that she's taking. The vibes are just off. A Court of Frost and Starlight, absolute garbage. I don't have anything nice to say. This is the novella that follows the like first trilogy. That's Feyre's story. I don't have anything nice to say. That being said, A Court of Silver Flames. This follows Feyre's sister and her love interest. Don't be ridiculous, Andrea. Everybody wants to live like this. I thought this was a good one. Nothing happened in this book, except then you get to like the last 2 hours, and then they're just in the Hunger Games. I didn't like that. I liked the beginning 24 hours where absolutely nothing happened. Speaking of nothing happening, let's talk about Dorian Gray. I was gonna say another mid-classic, but I actually don't think I have anything nice to say about Dorian here. It's a classic. Yeah, no. It's not a good one. It's not a good one. There's this kid named Dorian Gray, bisexual icon. Dorian Gray's friend like paints a portrait of him, and it's so beautiful, and Dorian Gray discovers that when he does evil stuff, the portrait will become uglier, but he won't become any uglier or any more aged from the burdens of his bad behavior. And then the story, like, I don't know, from there I just feel like is really straightforward. Like I said, classics, they probably were cool at the time. Something new under the sun. Unfortunately, this wasn't something new under the sun. Alexandra Kleeman, I read her book, You Too Can Have a Body Like Mine, and it's one of my favorite books. Unfortunately, this had like the same overarching plot that story did, and so I knew like out the gate like what was going on. And I was really disappointed because I did like the characters. So, I think I'm going to put this in Don't Be Ridiculous, Andrea, because I felt like the plot didn't match the book that we were in. But I still like it. Bunny definitely goes in Amnesia. This book is like the type of book that I'm always looking for and always craving. Bunny is what I'm looking for. Bunny is about a girl in a writer's cohort at her college. The other girls there are like in a really close friendship and kind of cluster that excludes her. And she goes back to the cohort the next year, and they decide to start including her. And things get weird. I would recommend Bunny. If you're not somebody who's into litfic, I still would recommend this book. I think it's that good. Then we have Gone Girl. Gillian Flynn is interesting. I'm gonna put Gone Girl on the upper end of mid. It was good, but it has problems. And I just couldn't get past some of the weirdness. Gone Girl is about a husband whose wife goes missing, and it quickly becomes clear to him that she is framing him for her murder. His wife and himself are trying to kind of long distance outsmart each other. She's trying to get him convicted, and he's trying to get the public to stop attacking him. There's a lot of focus on misogyny, internalized misogyny from a man's perspective, to go against his programming from his really misogynistic and abusive father. But then it's like the book is like, but this woman is evil. I don't know how I feel about like those themes being explored and then the conclusion being like, I'm gonna channel all of my hate towards women into this one person. That's really like what I got out of it, and I didn't necessarily love that. Educated, no notes. Educated is good. This is a memoir about a woman who grew up in kind of like fringe LDS culture. Her family didn't believe in public education, so they were homeschooled, but they weren't really homeschooled. They weren't really educated at all. And it's just about her growing up. Yum. Big Swiss. No notes. Big Swiss is about a woman who transcribes a local sex therapist's recorded therapy sessions. And she becomes obsessed with this woman that she refers to as Big Swiss, ends up running into her in real life and starting a real life friendship and eventually relationship together. I have some notes, but I'm gonna leave it. No notes. Few notes. Tiny, tiny, tiny little notes. Rouge is by the same author as Bunny, which is why I read it. If I don't have anything nice to say, Rouge is about a woman who is like visiting her mom's apartment and home to take care of things after her mom has passed away. And she starts getting pulled into the same beauty community / cult that her mom was involved in before she passed away. It sounds really good. I love the cover. The imagery it just wasn't for me. I don't have anything nice to say about it. Poor Things. I'm gonna put Poor Things at the front of no notes. I wanted to read the book before seeing the movie. I finished the book, started the movie. I was like, fuck this. Even though they kind of run along the same lines of talking about like womanhood and sex positivity and all that kind of stuff, I don't know, the book is totally different. And there's a twist at the end of the book that, as far as I'm aware, isn't included in the end of the movie and totally changes the context for which all of the story happens. Poor Things is like a historical sci-fi where a pregnant woman goes to commit suicide, and her body is brought to their local doctor, and he chooses not to revive the woman, but he instead decides to take the brain of the baby that she was pregnant with and put the brain into her body as like a fucked up science experiment. She is like this half adult, half child who he is raising, and then he introduces her to his friend. And she is immediately infatuated with him and wants to marry him. But before she does, she wants to go on this big overseas adventure with her lover. It's very Frankenstein. Like, a lot of the actual plot of the book is communicated through like letters and retellings of stories. This is a poetry collection called Julia Hungry. I follow Hannah Louise Poston is her name, I think. And I follow her on YouTube. She does like minimalist beauty content. At first, I did not like it, but I read it through a couple times, and there's definitely pieces that I'm a big fan of. I'm gonna put this at the upper end of Don't Be Ridiculous, Andrea, because overall I really liked it, and it definitely like inspired me to keep working on my own poetry. Eileen, I barely remember anything. Definitely gonna go in I don't have anything nice to say. It was kind of forgettable. It's about this woman who's like obsessed with this lady, Eileen, in her life, and some murder. I don't remember. I remember it not making sense. It didn't feel cohesive. Like, I didn't really understand the story or the message that was trying to be conveyed. Let's talk about the Dutch house. I really recommend the audiobook version of this. I think it's gonna go into Amnesia. This is like classic fiction, litfic. It's a big focus on family and sibling dynamics, which I love. This is about a boy and girl who live in this spectacular house that their dad owned. Their mother ran away when they were children for her to go do basically charity work. So this woman starts coming around who is like clearly like obsessed with the house and in their opinion like marries their dad just for the house. And so when their dad does pass away, she kicks them out. The story is like about the brother and the sister's entire lives into their adulthood for years and years, and their like persistent obsession with their stepmom and this house that she took from them. Okay. Looking Glass sound. Do I have anything nice to say about this book? I think I'm gonna put this at the end of mid. I have a couple nice things to say about this book. Catriona Ward, I've read 2 of her other books and I really liked both of them. The first one was The Last House on Needless Street. The second one was Sundial. And the thing about her books are there's like an overlying mystery or twist that you kind of like know exists, but you don't get to be a part of until the very end. This book was crazy. It was just absolutely bonkers. The twist made things so much more convoluted and strange. I had to like sit there and reflect on the entire book prior to when I knew this information to try to contextualize it with this new information. So like I don't even know how to describe the premise because the premise is so uprooted near the end that it's so nonsensical. This is about a boy who spends the summer in the summer home with his parents. He befriends a couple kids there, and that's how it starts. That's not how it ends. Night Sky with Exit Wounds. This is another poetry collection. This one was pretty good. It wasn't as like aligned with his writing style, but despite that, I really liked the content. I'm gonna put it in mid, to be honest, but definitely on the upper side. It just wasn't my like poetry writing style. 6 Crimson Cranes. I really wanted to like this book. It's a fantasy. Our main character seemingly has magic when magic is like banned or illegal. And when she's caught using her magic, her stepmother puts a curse on them to turn her 6 brothers into cranes. And if she speaks, then one of her brothers will drop dead. I was really like into the premise. I just was not a fan of the writing style. There was something that was really detached for me. I was able to get invested into the characters, but I wasn't able to like really like immerse myself in the story because of the writing style. I think I'm gonna put this right at the top of I don't have anything nice to say. I hate to do it. Dark Places. So this is by the same author who wrote Gone Girl. This is a story based around a family. The main character, when she was a little girl, her entire family was brutally murdered, and she was the only one who survived, aside from her older brother who was convicted and charged for the murder. The story is kind of told from her as an adult and then him as a teenager or at the time of the murders. I have mixed feelings about this because I didn't like the answer to the mystery. I super wasn't a fan. In my opinion, there were a lot of strange things that were just kind of like red herrings that were dropped and then were left unexplained, but were on their own alarming, even though they didn't connect to the murder, but they just were never explained. And I feel like we are supposed to have a lot of sympathy for the teenage boy character who is in life in prison or whatever for these murders, but I didn't have a lot of sympathy for him because he does make some really horrible, strange decisions. And then we have our main character. I loved this character. I wanted to see her break out of this book, go into a different, better book. Where do I want to put this? The girls. I liked the girls. This is about a girl who she's like right around like 14 or 15, I think, and she joins a cult very briefly. This was like a point of view where we would get her perspective now as an adult, and then we would get her perspective from when the cult incident was occurring when she was a teenager. I just didn't love the now perspective, not because of anything wrong with the character, but the things that were happening just weren't super intriguing. Anibot, no notes. Anibot is about a like personal like girlfriend robot that is owned by her boyfriend. She is his girlfriend AI robot, and he decides to change her mode from like static to didactic, so she's able to learn a lot more and a lot better and kind of expand past like some of the limitations of her programming. At first he's like, seems like it's going to be a really positive change, and he's obviously like very happy to have her as a like real girlfriend, but as things go on he becomes more and more unhappy with her, more and more abusive. The Night Guest. I don't have anything nice to say about this. It's about a woman who, whenever she wakes up in the morning, is like incredibly like tired and in pain and exhausted. She's, you know, going to the doctor to figure out what's been going on. Turns out she's been sleepwalking, being evil, I guess. I don't know. I don't care. It was such a nothing book. The life-changing magic of tidying up. I had thought that like everybody knew Marie Kondo, but when I was telling people about reading this book, they were like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is a mid book. I liked a lot of the information and advice, but I think Marie Kondo has some personal problems that she might want to work on. I'm just not a fan of any type of prescriptive self-help that says this is exactly how it needs to work and this is how it's going to work for everybody exactly the same way, and if you don't do this you're a bad and dumb person. And that was a little bit of the vibes that I was getting. Beautiful world, where are you? I have the same question. Where are you, beautiful world? I don't have anything nice to say. Me and Sally Rooney are honestly worst enemies. This was the second shot that I gave her. I read Conversations with Friends. It was recommended to me by somebody that I very much trust for book recommendations, and I hated it. I wanted to give Sally Rooney another chance because she is a litfic icon. No, it was like about two girls and the two guys that they're dating and the bullshit that goes on between them. It's Marxist, but I think part of the issue that I have with Sally Rooney is that she doesn't weave in these ideologies into her stories. You just kind of have these two characters and their dating lives, and then we have like a little intermission for them to talk about the fact that they're going to be working until they're dead, and then we go back to our romance plot. It just wasn't my favorite. I, who have never known men. No notes. This was a novella from the perspective of a girl. She's living in a bunker with a few dozen other women, and she was the only one who was put in the bunker as a child and as a pretty young child, and so she has no memories at all outside of this bunker. So this is basically like her experience in this bunker with these women who have really given up on life and who have given up on themselves and on escape and bettering themselves in any way or learning what's going on and why they're being kept in this bunker. One day all of the guards disappear and they're able to escape, and outside is complete nothingness. There's nobody and nothing. The only thing that's left is the other bunkers, and everyone else in the bunkers has died. The Lightning Thief. I'm rereading the Percy Jackson series. I obviously read these when I was a kid. That's why they're going into Don't Be Ridiculous. I don't think that the initial few books are going to be like that amazing for somebody who doesn't normally read middle grade. It does have like a pretty like immature tone and everything. But I like these, and I can't wait to get to the second series because that's when I think like things really pop off. I'll just grab Sea of Monsters while I'm talking about it. The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. I read this on audiobook, and Toni Morrison reads it herself. Most of the time a reader's gonna bring something, you know, a little something extra to reading their own book, but this reading was so good. She's got such a poetic voice. I'm gonna put this in no notes. The Bluest Eye is about a black girl and her wish to have blue eyes. This was Toni Morrison's first book. Honestly, I think I'm gonna be reading through her works in chronological order. I see you, Toni. She's got a lot to say. Our Wives Under the Sea. This is gonna go into no notes. This is about a lesbian couple, and one of them recently came back from a submarine expedition where she had been trapped for several months unexpectedly, and them kind of like trying to get through this traumatic thing that kind of happened to both of them. Things get a little weird. It's definitely like surrealist fiction. Cassandra in Reverse. Everybody wants this. I kind of like went into it thinking it was going to be a cutesy time travel rom-com, and that is not what it is. The reason it doesn't go into no notes is because there is a decision made by the main character at the very end that I am not a fan of. I think there's going to be many repercussions. It's a time traveling book. Cassandra, she's had a very bad day. Her boyfriend broke up with her this morning, and then she went to work and got fired, and she goes outside and she starts just having a meltdown, curls up into herself and puts her head in her knees, and in the process of doing this realizes that she has the power to travel back in time. She can travel back as far as she wants, all the way up to the day that she and her boyfriend met. She kind of takes this as a sign that she's supposed to be fixing her relationship with her boyfriend, and it goes off from there. Like I said, very questionable decision at the end. In the story, it makes sense that Cassandra would make this crazy decision. Cassandra makes many crazy bad decisions. That's definitely like part of her personality and part of the issues that she's kind of dealing with. House of Cotton took me literally the entire year to read. I'm gonna put this in mid. I didn't love it. This is about a young black girl whose grandma just passed away, and her grandma raised her. This book was like so hard. It's like horrible thing after horrible thing after horrible thing like happening to this character, and it was a little much for me. Right when she goes home after the funeral, she's sexually assaulted by her landlord, and so she ends up through a series of events moving into this man Cotton's house. And this man Cotton is kind of a con artist. He kind of starts using our main character for part of his con. I don't know, I just wanted her to be happy, which I guess hopefully she's happy by the end of the book. Frickin' William. Do I have anything nice to say? No. It's about a man, and he is like a scientist. He's made this little like AI robot man, and his name is William, and William's really mean, but in the meantime his life with his wife is kind of deteriorating. His wife is pregnant, but it sounds like their relationship has really gone down the drain, where we start in the story, and then things get really spooky when they have a couple guests over for dinner, and he goes and introduces them to his project William. It wasn't very good. The characters were fine. I wish it was a little longer, honestly. I think that would have, like, I would have been able to connect with the characters and, like, really build up your fear of William. So, yeah, those were all of the books that I read in 2024. Like I said, more or less than 50. Somewhere around there. This was my first year like really getting back into reading, and I feel like it went really well. I've got like 50% above mid, which I feel like is pretty good. I have a lot of things in the more negative sections but I don't mean it. I would like to be making booktube content, and so if there's anything you're specifically interested in hearing about, but I'm probably going to be posting like reading reviews, you know, every other month or something like that, just going over all the books that I read in the last couple months and what I thought about them. Yeah, thanks for watching. Bye!